Shkoyach, thank you. It's also to always acknowledge in our course of Toiv to the Havas Torah from Yedidi Reb Shlomo Gottesman, Shlita, who's always going forward and looking for ways to Lahagdal Torah Lahadira. So it's always my schus to be mishtatev with him. And so we'll just begin an inyan that has to do with one of these sugyas that we're talking about here with Birchas and Brachos. But before I begin, I like to always just say, it says in this week's parasha that Yaakov Avinu was Ish Tom Yoshev Aholim. The Targum Yonis and Rashi says, what's the Yoshev Aholim? Rashi tells us Yoshev Aholim means he was sitting b'beis medrasha shel shem ve'ever. That's what Aholim. Olim is Miloshin Rabim. It's Miloshin Rabim, there must be many Olim. So Rashi says, Beis Medrasha Shel Shem Ve'ever, which was a chiddush to me in general, that there were two Batei Medrashas. One was Shem, one was Aver. I always thought it was Beis Medrasha Shel Shem Ve'ever. Here it seems clear it was Shem and Aver, because there were two different Batei Medrashim. Goes so far that the Sifsei Chachomim asks, Aver was younger than Shem. He was a son or a grandson. So then he should have learned by Shem, not by Aver. What was he running to go to Aver, not to Shem? So the Sifsei Chachamim tells us, sometimes your Sheirish and Torah is by the younger one, not by the older one. Every person has to find his Libay Chafetz and find his Rebbe. But it's interesting that the Radak, if you look in the Sefer Torah's Chaim, they have the Sefer with all the Rishonim al HaTorah. The Radak says a different shot than the Yoshev Aholim. And the Radak says, Yoshev Aholim, he used to go around to many Oyalim, Botei Medrashos of Chachamim. And he used to nash, he doesn't say that, obviously, the Radak. And he would go around nashing Chedushay Torah from anybody he would be able to get it from. Some people think the way to learn is to, which there are many people who hold that way, and I'm not begrudging it. They hold that you just go to, you have one Rebbe, and you try not to defile your Maseres HaTorah by hearing Torah from other people. The Radak says that wasn't Yaakov Avinu's midah. Yaakov Avinu's midah was, he was looking to get from every place there was any Torah, he was able to get it, and that was the Yoshev Aholim of Yaakov Avinu. So I think we're really makayim that when we come together and learning and hearing different people, everybody's perspective in Torah. There's also one other thing that Targum Yonason says. Ishtam Yoshev Aholim says he came to learn the Beis Medrash Shel Shem Ve'ever, and then the Targum Yonason adds V'tova Ulpana Me'es Hashem. Tova is Meloshin Tefillah, davening. It's not enough just to learn. You have to daven to Hashem that the learning will make a roshim and you'll understand learning. The Dvar Hashem is not just intellectual calisthenics. The Dvar Hashem is, you have to believe it's a Dvar Hashem. You have to be zoicha and privileged to be able to be Makayim Torah and in yourself, to be able to be koilet to Torah. So if you're able to do that you have to daven. That's why part of the Yoshev Aholim was the Tova Ulpana L'fnei Hashem. You got to daven. So maybe that Hakdama, let's just enter into a few ha'oras that I wanted to say. In order to, in this, there's a tremendous uvda that I once saw. My father, Zayin Gesund, showed it to me. And it has many, many tilim shel halachas from this conversation that the Chazon Ish had with somebody. I always thought it happened with a Chassidish Yid, but just this last week I found it happened with Reb Moshe Soloveitchik, who was the son of Reb Yisrael Gershon Soloveitchik, the brother of the Brisker Rav, who was in his later years in Zurich, and he was in Switzerland, and this happened with him. But just hear the case, and it's just worth hearing the technicalities of the case. This Reb Moshe Soloveitchik was keeping 2 days Yontif because he was a Ben Chutz La'aretz. He came to Eretz Yisrael keeping 2 days of Yontif. That year, Yontif was Friday and Shabbos. So regardless, the Anshe Eretz Yisrael, the Yoshvei Eretz Yisrael, were keeping the second day as Shabbos. The first day, everyone kept Yontif. The second day was Yontif and Shabbos for Bnei Chutz La'aretz, but it was only Shabbos for Bnei Eretz Yisrael. Motzei Shabbos, the Moshe Soloveitchik came in to visit the Chazon Ish. The Chazon Ish asked him, where were you for Shalosh Shudas? He told him where he was. He asked him, where did you hear Havdalah? He said, I was by somebody's house on Eretz Yisrael Dikayid, and then I heard him, I was Yotze with his Havdalah. And the Chazon Ish told him, I think you might have to make over Havdalah. Why? He says, I heard Havdalah. The Yid made Havdalah, and he made the exact Havdalah that I need. The Chazon Ish said, that Yid made Havdalah for Shabbos because he was a Yoshev Eretz Yisrael, and therefore he didn't have a Yontif Sheni. However, you as a Ben Chutz La'aretz, that Havdalah has to work for you as a Havdalah on Yontif and on Shabbos. So his Havdalah was not sufficient for you because your Havdalah was you had to have a Havdalah on Shabbos and Yontif, and his Havdalah was strictly a Havdalah for Shabbos. Now, first, you got to set aside one thing. Nothing to do with the topic of this shir. I don't understand. When Friday is Yontif and it goes into Shabbos, you don't make Havdalah on Yontif Friday night. You just make a regular Havdalah, a regular Kiddush. What happened to the Havdalah of Friday, of Yontif? Even the Ben Eretz Yisrael had never made Havdalah. So possibly his Havdalah on Motzei Shabbos is all-inclusive, is for the Friday and for Shabbos. So therefore, they would both be in the same boat. So then what would be the Chazon Ish's question? They both are having a Havdalah for Yontif. He's having a Havdalah for Yontif from Friday's Yontif, which was postponed till Motzei Shabbos. And this fellow, that Ben Chutz La'aretz, is having for Yontif. It's possible to say that there is no such Havdalah on Yontif when Shabbos comes after. It gets swallowed up by Shabbos, and you don't need Havdalah, which I don't want to belabor the point now. There's a Bir Agra and Hilchos Havdalah that seems to be clear that unbelievable Bir Agra. I don't want to go off the point. The Bir Agra is mashma that Motzei Shabbos Havdalah, when it's Friday and Shabbos Yontif, the Shabbos Havdalah is koilul, includes the Havdalah on Yontif. If that's true, what did the Chazon Ish want for Moshe Soloveitchik? Look, it should come out that the Motzei Shabbos Havdalah is a Havdalah for both. Well, it could be very deep. I need a Havdalah when I'm a Ben Chutz La'aretz for Yontif Sheni, and I need for Yontif Sheni, Yontif Rishon, and Shabbos. The Ben Eretz Yisrael is only having a Havdalah for Friday, which was Yontif, and Shabbos, but not Yontif Sheni. So therefore, the Chazon Ish said he's not in the same boat with you in regards to the Yontif Sheni. But that's just to posit and to put down the question. The Chazon Ish said you cannot be Yotze Havdalah because the Ben Eretz Yisrael is only making Havdalah on Shabbos, and the Ben Chutz La'aretz needs a Havdalah for Shabbos and for Yontif. My question is, I don't understand. What is the nusach of a Havdalah of Motzei Shabbos? A full Havdalah. What's the Havdalah that the person needed for this Yontif if he would make his own Havdalah? The same exact Havdalah. It's the exact same words. What's for the Chazon Ish? It's the Kabbalah, or I was saying, what did the Chazon Ish want from him? We're both on the same boat, and we're both on the same level. Why should it make a difference that he can't be might see him? It's a gewaldige kasha. Why should it be that? Why should not be? So I found it. Baruch Hashem, today's search engines, you can find it, and I found that Reb Shlomo Zalman, without bringing this Chazon Ish, says it b'davar pashut that you could be might see somebody in such a situation, because the Havdalah is the same Havdalah, and we're both on par together and the same exact thing. So therefore, it should be good. Why would the Chazon Ish hold that you would not be able to be Yaitza? This din, it's the same words. So a second, yeah, that's what that's called. So Elamai steht, steht da Yesod in Chazon Ish. There's a halacha. If I was Yaitza a mitzvah, I could be Moitzi somebody else with a mitzvah, with a bracha. If I really, there's a halacha. Kol she'enoi mechuyev b'davar, eini moitzi es harabim yedei chayvasai. If I'm not mechuyev in something, I can't make a bracha to be moitzi you. So the question arises, how could I make a bracha when I was already yoitz? You come home, you want to make kiddush. You made kiddush Friday night. You want to be moitzi your son or your wife, and you want to be moitzi them with kiddush. How are you moitzi them with kiddush? You're not a mechuyev b'davar anymore. You already made kiddush. You're done and over, finished with your kiddush. So that should be the halacha that you can't be moitzi. So the Torah, the Chazal tell us, a Mishnah, that since there's a parsha in the Torah of Arvus, and I am also mechuyev, so therefore I'm mechuyev to help you, and therefore I could be moitzi you yedei chayvasan, because I'm a mechuyev b'davar. I'm mechuyev in helping you. Kol Yisrael HaRavim zelozeh. So therefore I'm here to help you. So I'm obligated in this bracha. How am I obligated? Because you're obligated, and I have to help you with your obligation. So therefore, the halacha is I'm called a mechuyev b'davar. So if I'm mechuyev b'davar, I could be moitzi you. But that's only if you're a mechuyev in this thing. If you're in that parsha, if you're not in that parsha of chiyuv, so then I can't be moitzi you yedei chayvasa. So l'marshal, you could only be moitzi somebody who you have that same chiyuv. If a woman would want to be moitzi somebody with a tkiyas shayfer, she can't. The reason she can't is she's not mechuyeves b'davar. Even though she might have arvus, but arvus can only help if you're underlyingly a mechuyev b'davar. So therefore, you have to be a mechuyev b'davar to help out somebody else and to be able to make a bracha. So we can now pose a question. If I'm mechuyev b'davar, what do the words mean? Mechuyev b'davar. Am I mechuyev in the same mitzvah that you're mechuyev in? Or am I mechuyev in the same act that you're mechuyev in? The same maisa? Or is it the same chiyuv? Is it the chiyuv of the maisa? Or is it the chiyuv of what the mitzvah is? The Chazon Ish held, of course we're both mechuyev to say these words, Hamavdul ben Kodesh l'choil. The Ben Eretz Yisrael is mechuyev to say it because it's Motzei Shabbos. The Ben Chutz La'aretz needs it for Shabbos and for Yontif. The Chazon Ish said, no, that's not called a mechuyev b'davar. Mechuyev b'davar is not enough that we're mechuyev in the same act. We have to be mechuyev in the same chiyuv. And therefore, the Ben Eretz Yisrael is not mechuyev that Motzei Shabbos in a Havdalah for Yontif. And therefore, the halacha would be that even though he's mechuyev in the act, he's not mechuyev in the davar. So therefore, the Chazon Ish held it so strong, this halacha of kol she'eino mechuyev b'davar, eini moitzi es harabim yedei chayvasan, is that you need the chiyuv b'toich hadavar. You need the chiyuv of the chiyuv itself. Shlomo Zalman argues. Shlomo Zalman is going to hold. It doesn't make a difference why you're mechuyev to do it. If I'm mechuyev to do it, the same act, that's sufficient to put me in the parsha of kol she'ein mechuyev b'davar. She'mechuyev b'davar is motzis ram dechavasa. This has tremendous ramifications almost every Shabbos. You know where this comes in? You have a chiyuv to make kiddush, kiddusha rabbah. In the morning, after davening, you got to make kiddush. You sit down, and the kiddush per se is the Bayer Priyagofen. So you make a Bayer Priyagofen, and you yotze kiddush with Bayer Priyagofen. Now, I already made kiddush. Suddenly, my wife comes in, or a friend of mine says, I don't like to drink grape juice or wine. Could you make kiddush for me to be mitzi me with, or let's say not, he's asking you to do the kiddush. I sit down, it's already an hour after kiddush, and I sit down and I say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, Bayer Priyagofen, because I want to drink a cup of grape juice. I'm not thinking kiddush. I'm thinking grape juice. There's a person right next to me. He's holding a cup, and he says, "Okay, you might see me with Bayer Priyagofen because you're making a Bayer Priyagofen."
Now I can eat.
And he'll be Yaitse Kiddush. Yeah, that's true. I might see him with a Bayer Priyagofen of Birchas Hanahanan, but I might see him with the Bayer Priyagofen for Kiddush. I'm making the Bayer Priyagofen of Birchas Hanahanan, and that's a good Birchas Hanahanan. But he needs more than the Birchas Hanahanan. He needs the Birchas Hanahanan of Kiddush. If that would be true, so then he wouldn't be Yaitz, which parenthetically, that opens up a whole new Pandora's box for it's fodder for another share. If the Bayer Priyagofen of Shabbos morning is a bracha of mitzvah, or it's only Birchas Hanahanan. The Briskerov held that it's only, and I heard it from my Rebbe Salvation many times, and I was at the today's Rosh Yeshiva of Rebbe David's Yeshiva of Salvation Shlita at his Afraf, and we came in to say L'chaim to David. He made Kiddush, and he made each one of us drink from, he had cups prepared with grape juice, because that's the Kiddush. The Kiddush is the Birchas Hanahanan. It's not a Birchas HaMitzvahs. So therefore, everyone has to partake from a little wine in order to be Yaitz of the Kiddush. If that's true, so then this question is moot. You don't have this question, because then all of us, all it is a Birchas of Birchas Hanahanan, which happens to be parenthetically that just this week, someone showed me Amar Mokim Nifloya, that the Rashbam, I think it's in Psochim Daf Kuf Zayin, says the reason you have to make Kiddush on wine Shabbos morning is because the Suda of Shabbos has to be B'kfiyas shel Shira, ve'ein Shira ela al hayayin. That's mamish the Briskerov. Because if it would be holding a kais, you don't have the Shira al hayayin. The partaking of the kais would have the halacha of so that's what it seems clear that the Rashbam held. And it comes so right that I posed the question: what's the shear of Shira al hayayin? Is it a taste? Is it a revius? You have to find now sources. What is the shear? It's not a shia. It's a shia of Shira al hayayin. Now we have to go research what would be the amount that you would have to drink, which could create a whole new Indian of how much you have to drink. But Al-Kopanim, that would be, if you don't learn like the Briskerov, would be the same shaila, which would be this way. So I wanted to bring a Gewaldike Raya that I think that the Ramban held like Reb Shlomo Zalman and not like the Chazanish. We know one of the most foundational machloikesin between the Ramban and the Rambam is in the Shroshei HaMitzvahs, where the Rambam holds every derabanan is inherently a dairaisa. Since the Torah says every derabanan is loisasur, so the Rambam holds every derabanan is on its face a dairaisa. In practicality, there are kulas on derabanans because that's the way the Rabbanan set it up. But in Hilchas Torah, it's a Torah rule. So when you're doing a mitzvah d'Rabbanan, you're really being makayim a mitzvah d'Oraisa. The Ramban, in his Hasogas on the Rambam, in the Shroshim, has a whole package of questions, a whole pile of questions. One of his interesting questions, is the Gemara in Stav Chaf Amid Beis. The Gemara says, Noshim are not mechuyaves and birchas hamazon d'Oraisa, only the Rabbanon, since they don't have bris and Torah. Since bris and Torah is such an integral part of the mitzvah of birchas hamazon, Noshim are not mechuyaves midoraisa, only midorabanan. So the Gemara has a question: L'may nafkamina? You have to bench anyway. What's the difference if it's doraisa or dorabanan? So the Gemara answers: Lahoitzi es ish, lahoitzi es ish beberchas hamazon. If it's mechuyaves midoraisa, so then a doraisa could be moitzi doraisa. If she's a dorabanan is not called a mechuyeves b'davar, but kol shein a mechuyev b'davar, any moitzi sarabim yidei chayvas. So the Gemara says that's an afkamin. If she would be mechuyeves daraisa, she could be moitzi her husband. If she cannot, not her husband, any man. If she's not mechuyeves and it's only darabanan, she can't be it. Break the Ramban. Lefi the Rambam, even if you're only mechuyev midarabanan. Even if you're only mechuyev midarabanan, you're mechuyev midaraisa, because in its shirish, at its root, every darabanan is a daraisa. So if every darabanan is a daraisa, even if she's mechuyeves midarabanan, she should be able to be moitzi the ish midaraisa. It's a gewaltige Ramban. So the Ramban araya, hineged the Rambam. The Rambam holds you mechuyeves. It's on its. It's a darabanan, is a daraisa. So therefore, even what's the Gemara's l'may nafkamina? Even if there is an nafkamina, it's the same. Even if it's true, but the chiluk doesn't have any ramification because it would be the same thing. So the Ramban is muchach. The Rabbanans are the Rabbanans completely. That's not a source. The power is given by the Torah, but in its mitzvah sense, the mitzvah is a darabanan, not a daraisa. If the Ramban is right according to the Rambam, and you want to be like a Chassidish Yid, you want to say L'shem Yichud Kutsha Brichu before you do the mitzvah. Even people who don't say L'shem Yichud say the Hinani Muchana Mezumah. Hinani Muchana Mezumah L'kayim before you bench. According to the Ramban, if the mitzvah d'oraisa facet of benching midarabanan, which mitzvah are you machavan to be yetzer? Exactly. You're being makayim mitzvahs kol asher yerucha leisasa. That's your deraisa. Which mitzvah is the ish being yetzer? The ish is being yetzer. V'chalta v'savato v'rachta.
Can't do Arvis.
So what's the Rambam? Even if Allah is like Rambam, how would you be able to be see him? You're not called mechuyev b'davar. You're both being yotze different chiyuvim. So what's the Ramban? If the Ramban held like the Chazon Ish, so then the halacha would be that you can't be mitzi. So then the Ramban has no kash on the Rambam. But if the Ramban held like that svara we were saying, which we found subsequently in the Minchas Shlomo from Shlomo Zalman, so then the halacha would be that you would be Yates, you would be able to be might see him. Why would you be able to be might see him? Because you're both mechuyev in the same physical act of what? Of saying these words. So if you're saying these words, you'd be able to be might see him. Is a raya that the Ramban, at least in his kasha, I don't know if this would be the Yishim on the Rambam, but in the Ramban in his kasha, definitely did not hold like the Chazon Ish. And he did not hold that you could be Yaitse. Yesh makom l'chalik. I don't want to don't leave any stone unturned. It's possible that if the Chachomim mikoyach daraisa were masakin a mitzvah, it would be bichas hamazon. It would be a birchas hamazon. It would be a birchas hamazon mikoyach of the kol sheyerucha. I don't know, maybe it has a Shem Birchas Hamazon, so it's called a Mechuyim in Birchas Hamazon. But that's very schwer. Pashtus, it would have to be that it would not be a Birchas. So the Chayr would be the same din like by Havdalah. And by Havdalah, you would not have that halacha. So we're back to the same question of what this shaila, Yesod is dika shaila. It's a very foundational question of what is the halacha of kol asher, of what is the halacha of kol sheina mechuyev b'davar, moitzi harav eina moitzi harav midei chavasa. Is it mechuyev b'davar in the ma'aser, or is it mechuyev b'davar in the act? I wanted to bring a dogma to where this svara takes place. We know there's a din in the Torah called Bal Toisif. You're not allowed to do Bal Toisif extra. Any mitzvah, which was, we spoke of the Achekal, so many occasions, the whole, Bal Toisif, you're not allowed to do extra on a mitzvah. The question that Toisvis in Masechtas Rosh Hashanah, Daf Tezvav Amud Beis, poses is, so how do we blow Meya Koilis on Rosh Hashanah? The amount that you have to blow is 9 koilos.
30.
So it's a 30 koilos because of the suffix. But then we go and we and we blowing 100 koilos. And bless the ganzen Tag. The Yeshua at the beginning of the 4th parak, Rosh Hashanah says Yom Trua. It's because people used to blow, even according to the Torah, the whole day. He says that's why it's called Yom Trua.
Right.
So mainly it's the amount of blowing the shofar. How could you blow the shofar? Maybe Bal Toisif. So Toisvis, maybe it's not Bal Toisif because there's a klal in Bal Toisif. You're only over Bal Toisif if you're over the Bal Toisif bizmanoi shel mitzvah. If it's not zmanoi shel mitzvah, you're only over if you're doing it intentionally to be over Bal Toisif. But if it's not bizmanoi shel mitzvah, you can't be over Bal Toisif if you have another reason you're doing it for a frumah reason. But if it's Bismano Shel Mitzvah, then you have to be very, very careful. Because then anything you do becomes a Maisa Mitzvah. And therefore you'd be over Bal Toisif. So Toisif is, when do I blow? What? Oh, we're getting to that. It's like Toisif is. So maybe the answer is, once I blew my 30 kailas, I was already Yitzhak. Now for me, it's not Zman Shel Mitzvah. So maybe it's not Zman Shel Mitzvah. So Tosfos brings a Gemara in the 4th parak, in the end of the 3rd parak of Masechtas Rosh Hashanah, where it says if a kohen adds words to his Berchas Kohenim at the end, he's over Bal Tosfos. Yosef Hashem Aleichem Kachem. So the Gemara, he's over Bal Tosfos. Why is he over Bal Tosfos? He's giving you a nice bracha. And it's not Zmanei Shel Mitzvah, because he already finished duchening. So the Gemara now, Ilu, Isramile, Tzibura Achrina, if another tzibur would come and want a kohen for duchening, so then he'd be able to duchen. So since he duchen, Kol Yoim Zmanehu, the whole day is called his man. So Tosfos, who are din over here? Over here too. If someone else, you were Yitzhak Kiyashayf, if someone else shows up who needs you as a Baal Tekeya, you would blow for him. Therefore, Kol Yoimi, the whole day is called Zmanei Shel Mitzvah. So Mela Tosfos is Kasha, and Ayin Shom Tosfos is Teretz. Why it's not Baal Tosfos? Fake Jabakiva Hagen, the Gilyan Ashaz. Ein Anidin Doimel Arayah. When a kohen comes, and another tzibur needs a kohen, when the kohen duchens, he's makayim mitzvahs nesiyus kapayim. He's makayim mitzvahs nesiyus kapayim. Well, he says, Asher kitshonu b'mitzvaysav v'tzivonu levarech es hamo Yisrael b'yahava. He makes another bracha. So then he is primed to be able to do another mitzvah, a berachas kohenim. So kol yoyma izmaneh. So when you blew shofar, that's it. You cannot do again mitzvahs kiyashayf. When I'm blowing for you out arvus that I could blow for you. I'm not getting any more mitzvah. I'm just getting the mitzvah of blowing it for you. So that's not Zman Shel Mitzvah for me. That's Zman Shel Mitzvah for you. And I'm a good guy, so I can help you out. But how can you compare it to the Birchas Koyanim of Nesias Kapayim? A gewaltige Kasha from Kvega, a tiefe Kasha. Zog the Stipler in Kilas Yankiv, Mesechtes Rosh Hashanah. The machlokes between Rebbe Kvega and Tosfos is, I think, mamish exactly this machlokes. I am not a mechuyev bedavar anymore in being yotzet kiyas shayfer. But the fact that I can blow shayfer again for you, I'm in the parsha of maiset kiyas shayfer. Because if I can't do the maiset kiyas shayfer, I wouldn't be able to be moitzi you. That's enough. Zok to be moitzi you. But that's not enough to make me a mechuyev in Hilchos Shayfer. I'm not a mechuyev in Mitzvah Shayfer. I'm a mechuyev in Arvus for you. If I'm a mechuyev in Arvus for you, so then that doesn't make me a mechuyev b'davar Mitzvah Shayfer. Memela, it's not a comparison to Birchas Kohen. However, Tosfos would learn like the Chazon Ish, according to what I'm saying. And according to Tosfos, if I can blow shayfer for you, it has to be ich bin a mechuyev in Tkiyas Shayfer, not a mechuyev in Arvus. I have to be a mechuyev in Tkiyas Shayfer. In order to be Tkiyas Shayfer, that's how I can be moitzi you. So then it's exactly the same as by Nesias Kapayim. If my chiyuv would only be limited to the mice of Tkiyas Shayfer, that would not be sufficient to be moitzi somebody else. So Mela, you would not be able to be moitzi. So the machlokes, the Chazon Ish and the Shlomo Zalman, which we said is really the machlokes, possibly the Ramban and Rambam would also be this machlokes between Tosfos and Reb Kivega in what it would be. So now I just want to bring one more question on this Yesod. In order to say the question on this Yesod, I have to say over a gewaldige uvda. Another of the story. Somebody his wife was mafresh challah. And she had it on the table, on the counter in the kitchen. She's mafresh challah. Suddenly a telephone call came in and she got mixed up. And what she separated for challah got mixed into the rest of the dough. So now all the dough is mixed with challah. So the husband called the Rav, and the Rav said, there's a halacha b'ferish Gemara Masechtus Nedarim Daf Nun Zayin that you could be shoyel on truma and you could be shoyel on challah. Just like you could be shoyel on a neder, you could have regret, and therefore it's oiker the neder lemafreya. So too trumas and maestros and challah are like a neder. So you could be shoyel on the truma the challah. So he said that's the best eitzah. Be shoyel on the challah, and you'll be shoyel, and therefore lemafreya retroactively it won't be challah anymore. Oh, 1 second. So they did that. They were ready to do it, and the wife called back the Rav and said, "I already made a bracha. My bracha would be a bracha levatala, because now retroactively my hafroshas challah became not a hafroshas challah." The Rav said, "You're asking very good, alumnish lady." But the Rav said, it's a beferish Gemara. The Gemara says someone was mafresh trumas and maestros, and then we give him an eitzah to be shoyel. Most probably he took off the trumas and maestros legally. How did he take it off legally? With a bracha. If he took it off with a bracha, so then l'chayr the same halacha would be on that there was no bracha vatol. So he said you could do it. What's the reason? I don't know. If you look it up in the Rishash, in Masechtas Nedarim Daf Nun Zayin, the Rishash has this kasha, a long Rishash, and he notes a Chsam Sofer in a tshuva, and the Chsam Sofer says, since B'shaitoi, at the time, the bracha was a legal bracha, Asher K'chorim Soisav B'tzivano, L'hafresh Challah Min Ha'isa, even though retroactively it's not, it's called a standing bracha, and that bracha is not levatola, because at the what? Oh, sorry, I have it in the notes here. We'll come to the Netil Yadayim in a second, and therefore standing bracha would be a bracha. and therefore would be good. This halacha is used in many different situations, and we'll come to that Ritva Masechta Chulin in a second. That was the Shakavatariya, and this is what's brought, and it would be good. I wanted to add one more layer to this question. Somebody, at the time this lady was being mafresh challah, was standing 10 feet away, and she was ready to be mafresh challah. She was yoitza the bracha with this woman's hafroshes challah. And now she went and she did a regular hafroshes challah. Now this woman A was shoyel on her hafroshes challah. Limafreya, it's not a hafroshes challah. The bracha is not a bracha levatala. Why isn't it a bracha levatala? Whatever this reason is, because you made it at the time legally. The person number B, woman B, was not, she made hafroshes challah, and she was yaitza with that hafroshes challah. This bracha really retroactively, if it would have become a bracha levatala, let's go in the original way, if it would have been a bracha levatala, then of course her hafroshes challah is not a good hafroshes challah. Why isn't her hafroshes challah good hafroshes challah? A bracha on hafroshes challah good? Because she was yaitza with a bracha, which is a bracha levatala. But now we're saying, according to the Rashash, it's not a bracha levatala. But what is it? Is it a bracha on hafroshes challah? No, the whole hafroshes challah was null and void. It was a bracha that's a bracha clawless. That's not a bracha levatala. What? You mean let it just be? Let it be that she was being mitzi her with her bracha. I hear. No, she was being mitzi her with a bracha, which her bracha became a bracha levatala. You're saying let it be out mechuyev b'davar. I hear what you're saying. I'll tell you why it's not, but there's a reason why it's not. Because I didn't want to go down that rabbit hole. Because birchas hanehenen you cannot make be mitzi somebody, even if it's a birchas hamitzvahs. But a birchas hamitzvahs kol, if you don't want to be nehena loy levarech. So l'chayra on hafroshes challah, I don't know if you could be mitzi somebody else. So don't make the hafroshes challah. I'm not 100% sure if on hafroshes challah someone could make a bracha for somebody else when they're not making the hafroshes challah. Is that the din? Not only birchas hamitzvahs that you're mechuyev in. If you're not mechuyev in it,
then the whole parsha, the whole parsha
of Arvis doesn't apply.
Right.
But let me just leave this way. So this bracha of the bracha levatala, would it be able to be good or not? So I said that would also be totally in the Chazon Ish. If the pshat is the Maisa bracha is enough, and I was mechuyev to make that Maisa bracha at the time, so Mamela, the next person would not be able to. The next person would be able to be yaitz with that bracha. But if you need the bracha that it should be a bracha on hafroshes challah, so then you would not be able to. You would not be able to go and do it. Shafti v'roisi, that I found this question, went to search also, and Rabbi Avram Ganachovsky, that's how the great Goyim, in his sefer, new sefer, which is, I don't know, it's not on the HBrachos, but the sefer came out, so I think it's called Atzei al Moigim or something. It's mamish, unbelievable sefer.
Every brilliant shaila is there.
What?
Every brilliant shaila is there.
It's gewaldig in the Welt, and there's Shakmataris, which Rabbi Lando, Shlita with the back. It's nicht normal. He brings this in a conversation he had. He calls him the Baal Zeichel Etoy with Rabbi Lando Shlita, and they go back and forth on this question: if somebody else was Yetzer, could he be Yetzer with that bracha? Which, in my mind, I think would be totally in this shaila of the Chazon Ish. I'll just be right that what you were saying. I have to bring it here that it would not be an exact example. The Ritva, I'll say it, Bekitzer, that the Ritva Masechtas Chulin says that if someone washes his hands for Netilas Yadayim to eat bread and he makes a bracha, and then he sits down to eat the bread and he loses his appetite, so the Ritva says you don't have to worry about eating in order to save yourself from the bracha levatala, because the bracha at the time was a good bracha. So the Ritva, therefore, it's not a bracha levatala, and therefore the halacha is it's a good bracha. It's a good bracha. You don't have to worry about it. I don't think that ritva is a zushtel, any connection to this question of the rashash. By netilas yodayim, the bracha is chal on the netilas yodayim. So you made your hands muksher to be able to eat bread. When you make your hands muksher to eat bread, so then that was chal. A bracha on a ma'isa mitzvah, if the mitzvah doesn't pan out, so then it's not a good bracha. Because it's not a bracha, because the bracha is left hanging. So therefore it would not be good. And it wouldn't be comparison. So I'm just fair goes with last week's parsha. The Gemara says, Tosfos brings a Masechta Kala. Where do we know Birchas Eres and Minat Torah? It says, because it says, Vayevorchem es Rivka. They said to Rivka, which happens to be Lavan, and he made the bracha. So that's Birchas Eres. So Al Tumul, where do you see Birchas Eres from there? Al Yidei Shliach, but it was Birchas Eres. Everyone asks the question. There's a Rebbe Reb Heschel in Chanukas HaTeireh, and he says that he brings the Chazal not the way that the Malach, that Besuel wanted to give poison to Eliezer, and then he died, and it got switched. He says that what happened was Lavan wanted to kill Besuel, a much more sinister case, and Lavan was going to kill Besuel. You know why? Because Lavan was a big Lamdan. You know why Lavan was a Lamdan? He wanted Lavan to marry off Rivka, because Rivka was less than 12. And we know when a father marries off a daughter, it's a Kedushin D'Oraisa. When a brother marries her off, it's Kedushin Miyun. What's Kedushin Miyun? That at 13, 12, and something years old, she could be Chayzer and L'mafrei. It's not a Kedushin. He figured, okay, we'll marry off, we'll take the money. Later, she'll be Mamayanis. She'll have regrets. Then she'll come back home, and it won't be a Kedushin. That way, he killed Besuel, Dr. Rebbe Heschel, in order to affect it in such a way. And that's the way he learns the Psukim. What did the Rebbe Heschel do? So that means, Tosfos brings a Masechta Kala that it was Birchas Eres. If it was Kedushin Miyun, there was a chance L'mafreya would become not a Kedushin. And still we made a Birchas Eres. You'd leave the Birchas Eres hanging. It would be a bracha L'vatala. So therefore it would be a bracha L'vatala on a Kedushin Miyun. And therefore you shouldn't have been able to make a bracha. If there's a feasibility, if it's possible, that she'll be chayzer. If she'll be chayzeres, so there won't be a bracha. And if it won't be a bracha, it'll be a bracha L'vatala. Miyun could be like Netilas Yadayim, because it's chal on the Kedushin now with a power of L'mafreya. But there's a chaloi shem Kedushin. Therefore it could be chal, and therefore the Rebbe Reb Heschel would hold that you can make a Birchas Eres. I'll give you a great ma'amok. The Chazon Ish and Even Ezra, I don't have it written down where it is exactly. If you could call me later, you could look it up in my Sefer Eish Lamed, that the Chazon Ish says, you do not make a bracha on Kedushin Miyun. Halacha l'maisa, it's not some l'maisa Kedushin Miyun. But if there would be Kedushin Miyun, the Chazon Ish happens to be, there's a Ber Hativ that says you do make a bracha. The Chazon Ish says you do not make a bracha, because it'll turn into a bracha L'vatala. And since it'll be a bracha L'vatala, so therefore you would not be able to make it.
Could turn.
It could possibly turn it. So therefore you don't do it.
Could turn it, takes it away already.
No, we don't let you do it. Oh, it could, right?
Could
turn it, would be able to be. Then I saw, if you look it up, right, someone I see here on the Zoom is asking, Afkina Rabbanon L'Kedushim Minei, and I saw there's a whole arichos about, so should you be choshish for Afkina Rabbanon L'Kedushim Minei?
You can't make a
That's not yet. First of all, that kash is not a kasha, because even if Afkina Rabbanon L'Kedushim Minei, the Kedushin is the Rabbanon. And most probably the mamzer is the Rabbanon. I don't want to go into that now. That's a whole sugya when you learn in yeshiva, in Ksubas, Gimel Amud Aleph, that it would be a Kedushin Rabbanon. This year I found that the Haflo in Panim Yafis at the end of last week's Parsha says on a Kedushin with a T'nai, you make the bracha b'shas the T'nai, not b'shas the Kedushin. Because he says, if there won't be a Kiyam T'nai, it'll be a bracha L'vatala. I'm clear in that would I don't know if that would impact this question. It would be chaluk, because there it wasn't the Maisa Kedusha Nigmar until the Tanai, and therefore
when is the kiyum of Tanai? What if it's a shevel plastic kiyum?
oh, it is a shevel, even in a shevel.
Do
Right. So that was my question. Last week's Chumash here, I said, could you make a bracha on a chalois without a Maisa? And that would be the thing. So just to recap, is the
Everybody question?
Shilas, and therefore, so thank you everybody for listening. If it's helpful, the schus hatayr should be yamoid, and we'll see it. It's beferish in this week's parasha. The Kleyokar says, I just have to fear with this. I really have to go, but I can't. I have to say it over that the Kleyokar says that Esav said he may evel avi. I'll come back and kill Yaakov. He may evel avi. Pashup Shadi was a Matsuyin and Kibbutz Avein. So why did he say that's why he said Yitzchak will die? The Kleyokar says no. We know the Gemara David HaMelech. He was like pasuk pum megirsa. The Malam Moses didn't have any shlit. Didn't have any window of opportunity to get him. So the Gemara, the Kleyokar, Esav knew that Yaakov had that school like pasuk pum megirsa. So therefore he would protect himself. Fragt Reb Chaim Kanievsky and Sefer Derech Sicha. They bring it that he asked, what do you mean? Aval learns the Dvarim HaRoyim. If you learn Dvarim HaRoyim, so that should have also protected you. And I saw the Beis Yisrael from the Ger Rebbe, Parshas told us, asked the question. So the Beis Yisrael answers, a Torah of Simcha is making a matzah. A Torah that's not Simcha is not making a matzah. Maron Reb Chaim Kanievsky Zatzal answered, a Torah of Chiyuv is making a matzah. A Torah of Oval is not mechuyev. He's allowed to learn it, but it's not a chiyuv. They sound like polar opposites. The Beis Yisrael holds Torah of Simcha. That means what I want to do. The Torah of chiyuv is the opposite. That's not Simcha. That's when you're obligated. The Torah's his name. You think the Simcha of Torah is the intellectual calisthenics? No, that's not what the Simcha of Torah is. That's Geshmak also. But that's not the Simcha of Torah is that we're fulfilling the greatest chiyuv that the Eibishter gave the world. Learning Torah, learning the Dvar Hashem. That's the simcha. You're connecting to the Eibishter on the highest and most ultimate connection, dveikus, that there is with the Eibishter. That's the simcha that there is. And that, when you're learning Torah of not chiyuv, you can't feel that simcha. You can't feel that simcha. That simcha is when you're feeling the fulfillment in on the shambas, deep, innovating in the yid, that he's being makayim developed when he's learning Torah. That's the Torah's making a matzel. That's what we're learning over here, and Baruch Hashem, we should all continue. Amen.